In this video, I'm going to show you a couple of things you need to know about working with vector shapes. So first of all, in Photoshop CC, we have a great new feature called Live Shape Properties. And one of these features is the rounded corner option, which can work with a rectangle tool and the rounded rectangle tool. So if you use the rectangle tool, for example, then you will already see the live shape properties here, and you will be able to change the corner radius for each of the corners. So the probably easiest way to do that is by clicking on one of these icons and start dragging it. It's like a scrubbing around right and left. You can change the size of these corner radius, and of course you can always unlink them, and then you will be able to change them separately. So if I do that, I can do only one separately to the others. Now it's good to know that you can copy and paste these attributes to another shape. So if I have two of them and I select this one here on the left, I can select the attributes of the corner radius here, copy, by pressing Command or Control C, and then select the other one and paste. And when you press Enter, it will update. It is also important to know that once you start transforming these shapes, and especially rotating them around, you will lose the Live Shape Properties options. It's very important to know the path operations as well. Whenever you have a shape layer, you will see that what path operation you use for that. So whenever you create a new shape layer, you will probably use the new layer option, but then you can also change between these here. You have combine, subtract, intersect, and exclude. So if I merge these two vector shape layers together, we discussed this in the previous video. So if I press Command or Control E, then it's merged together. So we can see it's in the same shape layer, but they are still separate shapes. But now if I go here to the path operations, I can, for example, choose subtract shape, and then that means this one will be subtracted from the other one. Now, it's also important to know that this means subtract front shape. But what is a front shape? Which one is in front of the other one? Well, that's also something you can change from these options called path arrangement. So if I move this one back, so I have that one selected and I choose send shape to back, then it will work completely differently. So then in that case, I can change this to just simply combine shapes. And if I want to use this to subtract, I can set that up to subtract front shape. And because the other one is in the back now, this one will subtract from it. So you can change the arrangement of them as well, and also the operations used with them. And once you have two or more paths in a shape layer, you can also merge them together. So you can merge the shape components, and that means you will have one shape or path, and you won't be able to move them separately from this point on. It's useful to know the keyboard shortcuts as well whenever you draw shapes. So if I have, for example, the ellipse tool and I draw a shape, you can hold down Shift to create a perfect circle, but then you can hold down also Alt to automatically start with subtracting a shape. So that's automatically sets the path operation to subtract. If you hold down Alt Shift together, that will create an intersection. So that will only show the intersecting part of this shape and the previous shapes. And to be able to create the exclude, you have to use the drop down, because there's no keyboard shortcut for that. So, but for a combine, subtract, and intersect, you can just use the keyboard shortcuts as well. And once again, if I don't need these circles or paths, I only need that little shape that I created there, then I can go to the options and choose Merge Shape Components. And that will get rid of those paths and will only keep the visible part of the shape layer as a new path. In case you have several shape layers, so I'm just going to draw a couple of shape layers, and I want to make sure I only work with one of them, like let's say this one. I can isolate this vector shape, which is again another new feature in Photoshop CC. So if I double click on it, that's one way of isolating. You can see it's already isolated, so I won't be able to work with any other shape layers here. just the one that I isolated. If I double click on it again, it will go back to normal, and I will see again all of them. So exit the isolation. And then I can also go to the layers filtering options, and I can choose selected. That will also give me the isolation. Or I can also double click with the direct selection tool. So either the path selection or the direct selection tool on the shape. And from the select menu, I can also use isolate layers option, which will do again exactly the same thing, isolate that layer. And last but not least, it's also good to know that for the path selection tool, you have an option to change selection for all layers or only active layers. So if you want to make sure you won't accidentally select another shape layer and only work with the selected layer, then you can use this option. Or if you want to quickly switch between shape layers like that, then you can have the select all layers option selected. And by the way, the same applies to the direct selection tool as well. So here we also have active layers and all layers.